Right guys, welcome back. Next up we have the installer recommendation form, which is completed by you as the installer. The nature of our installer recommendation sheet means that this can be completed on site either off your mobile device or tablet, saving you hours of administrative work, linking written notes to a smart application. Note that you will receive an email notifying you and assigning you to a client. Please make sure that you have a carbon copy of the applicant's name on the installer recommendation sheet, otherwise the order sheet will not recognize the client. From here, we will build your installer recommendation, which in turn will turn into a proposal for the client. First up, we have the basic information that's required, the date of the proposal that's being generated, customer email address so it can go to him, customer name and surname, physical address and province. As shown in our pricing documentation, we have a reminder of our products here, highlighting the Grow, Charge, Plus and Epic, as well as the backup solutions. Remember that each one of these is driven by the size of the inverter. So here I'm going to start building a system for you that you can use as a carbon copy and later test and poke holes into and see what you come up with. The system selection that I'm going to go with is going to be a Charge with an 8 kilowatt inverter. The Versofy upgrades would be additional panels and additional batteries that a customer would like. So you speak to your client and they are very keen to be closer to off-grid than starting off smaller, and he selects that he would like 4 extra panels. You manually insert this in a numerical value with the extra batteries of, let's say, 1. You'll notice here at the top of the page that the purchase order baseline for this particular package, which excludes the extras, is 46,000 Rand. For any extra item that is added on in this purchase order, it will change the overall purchase order value at the bottom. You can see here that this has already jumped up to 51,000 based on the addition of batteries and panels. The installer recommendations is a drop down, and you start off by selecting the roof type. I'm going to specifically change the type of mounting structure that is required. For a concrete roof, you're going to select an A-frame mounting structure and you're going to be entering in a number for the total number of panels that is required. So a reminder that the Charge has got 10 455s plus the 4 extra panels, meaning that there's going to be 4 extra mounting structures, and you will see that once again an additional cost is added to the PO for you. This is to make sure that you're not out of pocket and that you can have the cash flow in order to procure the items. Speaking of procuring those items, it's important to note that we as Versofy supply you, the installer, with the 4 big items: the inverter, the battery, the panels, and the dongle. All of the additional consumables are purchased by you and brought to site by you. Let's continue. Additional recommendations are options. These are by no means mandatory, and it's a discussion between you and the customer to see whether or not they require any of these items. An outdoor equipment rack is generally used for clients that don't have a garage and require the items to be housed. Once again, should you need this, it's a quick selection and a numerical insertion that will carry that price. I'm going to take that out for now as it's not a standard. A common discussion revolves around geyser timers. Geyser timers are optimal devices that do help the customer save for one, but also get the best out of their system. Should you engage and should they be keen on this, they would naturally have 2 types of options. One being a geyser timer that would go directly into the DB board, where a geyser-wise timer is a smart device like a Sonoff. I'm going to select one just so that it starts building up our price. DB board selection, this is to make sure that you're covering yourself and that you know what kind of a DB you're working in. You make the selection on whether it's a DIN or a SAMite. If a geyser-wise timer, if a geyser timer is selected, this is going to be directly relevant to what type of DB board you're installing. Because you're going to be buying that, this is your reference. There are before images of the DB board that we encourage you to take just to protect yourself in the event that you find that something is not kosher and you would like a second opinion, or whether you would like further engagement. You're able to populate notes based on the DB board as to what the issues may be. DB board upgrades. Quick selection gives you a drop down of what kind of additionals may be required. Is it an extra DB board, a sub DB board, or a sub DB board hookup? You would make the selection by either a numerical 1, numerical 2, or whatever the number is that is applicable to your system. Once again, the DB board total is increased, and you are just going to have a justification here. The same applies to the PV extras. If there are additional PV cables required, by selecting it, you're given the options of how many meters you would require. Please note that we provide you financially enough cash to ensure that you can purchase 50 meters of red and 50 meters of black before you need extras. Should you find that the installation you are going to perform requires an extra 30 meters because the DB board that is in the garage is an outer building and it requires that addition, you're going to add in the difference of 30 meters to make up the total of 80. Once again, PV cable justification notes can be placed in here. Roof and PV images, very important for your protection once again. AC/DC extras, again, selection whether or not you do require any of the mil cores and the containments. You are going to be just selecting this in as a number. As always, justification is required as we, as the people that are sending out the proposal to your clients, will need to understand fully the background and recommendations of your installation. They'll be engaging with us, and if you are unable to answer the questions, we need to be able to do so adequately on your behalf. Other variable costs that we don't account for can include things like scaffolding that is required on a double-story house, or even trenching, where a client does not want to be seeing the PV cable and you need to go underneath the bricks and repair it. You can add those in here with an additional cost, so you can have the following. This builds in any unforeseen costs that we need to make sure that we are covering you and you are not out of pocket. An image upload of the extras is vitally important, especially when it comes to the trenching. If there is paving that needs to be repaired, we want to see a before and an after picture. Future upgrade feasibility, very simple here. If a client can only have a maximum of an additional 4 panels due to the roof size, please add it in here, as it makes our lives much easier when the customer comes to us asking them about an upgrade installation. We have spoken about it in the first one, but the upgrade costs for the customer on a panel is 120 Rand per month on a rent-to-own and 80 Rand per panel on a SaaS deal, and for a battery it's 800 Rand per month, and it would be 500 Rand per month on a SaaS deal. At the bottom we require your installer email. This will go to you so that you have a copy of it. To start off, you'll be selecting just myself so that I get a copy of it. Down the line, when the WhatsApp groups is created by one of my fellow colleagues, you will be putting in that CX's name into the email address so that they get this email directly. You'll see here that the purchase order amount has increased quite substantially. This purchase order amount, we will pay you out 75% of this amount when the client signs their MRA. We withhold the remaining amount, the 25%, to after the installation has been completed and the handover has been successful. You submit this form, and this form comes to us, which in turn becomes an order form. Once this is submitted and received, we then populate our proposal, and we are able to share this with the client either via WhatsApp or via email. Should you wish to see a copy of this, this can be done. You just need to let us know.